Hey my friends, today I'll be showing you how I make French boule bread. It's one of the most flavorful breads I've ever had. I've been making it almost every week for the past year. And you can make this without a stand mixer. Use it for toast, sandwiches, or pair it with soup. It's versatile, easy, no preservatives, freezable, incredibly affordable, and to those that care, this is vegan too. I hope you give this a try because I'm not a baker, and if I can do this, you can do this too. Come, follow me on my journey towards a happier, healthier, and freer life. Subscribe to be notified on upcoming videos. Some of you may know I launched a collection of cold weather scarves, especially designed to comfort those with sensitive skin. So if you find scarves scratchy, check out freeandcat.com. French boule bread. Boule means ball in French. This bread is shaped like a ball, hence its name. If you are a beginner wanting to make delicious artisan French bread, use this recipe because it works. Baking beautiful and tasty bread requires lots of practice, and there are many components to practice in order to make this bread beautiful. For example, the slap and fold method, the shaping of the dough, the scoring of the dough, the understanding of your environment and the oven that you'll be working with. These all takes practice to understand this bread. That is why we need this recipe, one that produces French bread that is so delicious that even if it doesn't turn out looking perfect, you are going to enjoy eating it. This recipe produces a 7-inch French bowl. No kneading is required, and you can make this without a stand mixer. We're going to start off by adding 95 grams of cold water into a medium-sized bowl. Then add 0.4 grams of instant yeast. If you don't have a digital scale that could measure up to 1 decimal place, you can use slightly less than a quarter teaspoon. Add 95 grams of bread flour. Using a spoon, we're going to start mixing this into a cream. And as we mix this, the cream is going to thicken. Eventually, it's going to turn into a paste-like structure. The goal of this step is to ensure that every bit of flour is hydrated and there are no pockets of flour in the mixture. Once this is achieved, I will take a toothpick and scrape off any mixture from the spoon, and the poolish is ready for fermentation. Cover with cling wrap and let it ferment for 12 to 16 hours. Sometimes I bake more than one type of bread at a time, so I like to write down the flour and water content of this poolish so when tomorrow comes along I can remember what size and type of bread I was intending to make. I also write down the fermentation start time to easily track how long this poolish has been fermenting. The next day, if I see this, the poolish is at its peak activity and it's ready. If I can't start making the bread in 30 minutes, I will put the poolish into the fridge until I'm ready to start. This is to avoid over-fermentation. Over-fermentation will cause the poolish to deflate and it will start smelling like alcohol. We don't want that. On the other hand, if we see this, it means the poolish needs more time. I would then move the poolish to a warmer part of the home and check back every 30 minutes or so until the poolish is at its peak activity. The time it takes for the poolish to be ready varies depending on your environment. Cooler temperatures may require longer fermentation time. If you want the poolish to ferment faster next time, add a little more instant yeast, but cap the total amount of instant yeast to no more than a quarter teaspoon. The poolish gives our bread beautiful flavor and texture, so try to let the poolish ferment for at least 12 hours. We want to be as precise as possible on the weight of the following ingredients. Add 108 grams of water into your mixing bowl. Using a wet spatula, transfer the poolish into the water. A wet spatula has a non-stick effect. I find that it's easier to scrape every bit of poolish off using a wet spatula. Add 2 grams of instant yeast, 190 grams of bread flour, 4 grams of salt on top of the bread flour, as direct contact of salt with yeast can slow down the yeast action. Those of you that need to watch your sodium intake, feel free to reduce the amount of salt to make a low sodium French boule bread. You don't have to use a stand mixer for this step. I will show you both ways. On the lowest speed, mix to hydrate the flour and combine the ingredients. Increase the speed by 1, but no more than 3 notches to form a wet lumpy dough like this. Once this is achieved, stop mixing. Don't overmix. It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. Then we can put away our stand mixer. If you don't want to use a stand mixer, use a spoon to combine all ingredients by making a cream starting from the middle. Hydrate every bit of flour. You can also change to a spatula to help grab every bit of flour until it turns into a wet lumpy dough like this one. Transfer the wet lumpy dough onto a bench. Cover it with a bowl and let it rest for 25 minutes. When the dough relaxes, the gluten bonds are going to develop, and we will see how this changes later. While waiting, add 2 to 3 grams of extra virgin olive oil into a clean and dry bowl. Lightly oil the inside of the bowl. This prevents the dough from sticking and also gives the bread a rich flavor. 25 minutes have passed. See how much gluten has developed? It's a lot more relaxed and stretchy. Loosen the dough from the bench. Using wet hands, pick up the dough and slap and fold. Turn the dough 90 degrees, slap and fold. Turn 90 degrees, slap and fold. We'll do this a few more times until the dough turns into a smooth, tight ball. Then pull the dough ball towards yourself like so for a few times to further tighten the dough ball. 2 tips for slap and fold. First, always use wet hands so the sticky dough doesn't stick to your hands. Second, work smart. Here's how. Slap and fold no more than 10 times. If after 10 times you find your dough not turning into a smooth, tight ball and it feels lumpy, wet, sticky, easily ripping, stop. Cover the dough with a bowl. Let it rest for another 15 to 20 minutes. Then repeat the slap and fold process again. It should work this time round. Transfer the smooth dough ball into the oiled bowl. Cover and let it rise for 60 minutes in the warmest part of your home. After 60 minutes, with clean wet hands, we're going to loosen the dough. Gently stretch it and fold. Turn 90 degrees, stretch, and fold. Turn 90 degrees, stretch, and fold. Turn 90 degrees and fold. 4 times. Then shape it into a smooth cap and back into the bowl it goes. Cover and let it rise for another 60 minutes in the warmest part of your home. Using wet hands, transfer the dough to a bench, smooth side down. The dough is a little bit sticky, so you can use a dough scraper to loosen the dough. Very gently, lightly stretch the dough. Pull one edge up and fold, pull and fold, pull and fold around the perimeter of the dough until it forms a shape of a ball. Turn the dough ball over and pull the dough towards yourself. Turn it 90 degrees, pull the dough ball towards yourself. Turn 90 degrees, pull the dough ball towards yourself until you get a smooth, not so sticky dough ball. Cover the dough ball and let it rest for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, we are going to final shape the dough. We'll do the same thing again. Flip the dough smooth side down. Gently and lightly stretch the dough. Then pull one edge up and fold, pull and fold, pull and fold, pull and fold into a ball shape. Then flip the dough around and pull the dough towards yourself. Turn 90 degrees, pull the dough towards yourself. Do this for a few more times until it turns into a smooth, tight ball. As you are final shaping the dough, you may notice air bubbles getting pressured out of the dough. Some air bubbles may come together and rise beneath the dough surface. I try my best to pressure them out while shaping the dough, but whatever is left behind, I leave them as they are. Final shaping is done. This is my Benetton basket. I bought it from IKEA. You can do the final rise directly on the Benetton basket, but it takes effort to wash and get all the flour out. So I lined the Benetton with the cloth liner that comes with it. Lightly dust bread flour over the Benetton. If you're doing this directly on the basket, you may need more flour to ensure the dough doesn't stick to the basket. If you don't have a Benetton, you can use any pot or bowl that is 7.5 to 8.5 inches in diameter. Line it with a clean tea towel and dust it with bread flour. Transfer the dough ball to the Benetton, smooth side down. Then cover it and let it rise for 60 minutes in the warmest part of your home. During this time, place a baking pan into the lower rack of the oven. Close and preheat the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit or 230 degrees Celsius. 60 minutes have passed and our dough has doubled in size. Place a small piece of parchment paper and a baking tray, flip it over, gently remove the Benetton, and we're ready to score the dough. The main purpose of scoring the dough is to create pathways for the steam to escape during baking. This allows for the bread to expand easily. Take a look at this bread that was not scored. There's no easy pathways created for the steam to escape, so it creates its own, which results in cracks on the top of the bread. There are many ways to score dough. I'm going to show you my favorite because it's simple and makes it easier to slice. You can use a baker's lom or a sharp knife or even a pair of scissors to score the dough. The main pathway I'm going to create for the steam is a cross. I envision the cross I'm going to score on the dough and do some practice strokes to prepare myself mentally. And when I'm ready, just go for it. Nice! It takes practice to gain confidence to do the scoring. The key I've learned is don't think too much about it and just go for it. I suggest picking a simple scoring design that you like and stick to it until you gain confidence. After the main pathway is scored, I like to give additional mini scores around the bread to allow the steam to escape. You can also add decorative mini designs with this. The mini scoring is optional, but feel free to experiment. It's baking time! Use a spray bottle filled with water and mist it generously over the dough to prevent the drying out of the surface. When the dough is moist, the bread can rise more. Open your preheated oven and carefully pour cold water into the hot preheated baking pan. Place the bread on the middle rack and generously mist more water on the bread. Close the oven and let it bake for 10 minutes. The water in the hot baking pan and the pre-misting mimics the steam injection feature in commercial ovens. It delays the formation of the crust on the bread to allow the bread to rise to its potential during the first 10 minutes of baking. After 10 minutes, carefully remove the tray of water. Close the oven and turn down the temperature to 425 degrees Fahrenheit and bake for another 15 minutes or until the bread turns golden brown. The French boule is done. Check this out, it's ready, it's hot. I don't know if you can hear the sound. Remove the parchment paper and allow the bread to cool on a rack for at least 2 hours before slicing. Slicing hot bread results in a gummy texture. Alright, the bread has cooled down. You ready for this? Check this out. Fresh bread without preservatives stay fresh for about 18 hours at room temperature. You can freeze this. We wrap each slice individually to prevent freezer burns. Thaw it by leaving the wrapped slices at room temperature for 1 hour or the night before. Let's make sandwich, lightly toasted French boule slice. Half the fat mayo, Polish ham, homemade pickled onions, pickled hot pepper rings, provolone cheese. Lunch sandwich done. Try this out, let me know what you think. If you bake this bread, post it on Instagram, tag me. I would love to see your wonderful creations. The printable recipe for this 7-inch French boule is on my blog post. The link is in the description box below. And for those of you that try out this bread and enjoy it so much that you want to make a larger version, I have scaled up this exact same recipe to produce a 8-inch larger French boule bread. The recipe is on the same blog post. You just take the amount of ingredients in the 8-inch recipe and follow the exact same steps in this video, including the temperature of the oven and the time in the oven. And you'll produce an 8-inch French boule bread. I baked this today to show you that the recipe works. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching, and I hope you give this a try. I'll see you next time.